Today on the DML News Podcast, it seems like Mark Zuckerberg has finally found himself a way to get out of Trump prison, or so he's trying. And so we're going to talk about that today exclusively for most of the show. And we're going to be 100% unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son Denny, and on controls is my son Ryan. And as always, we're here to give you the facts, the figures, and the opinions that make a difference. Because for too long, there have been a lot of people who have not been able to speak their mind. They have been censored. They have been scared into silence. Why? Why is that? Why are people afraid to speak their mind? Well, here it is. Social media has become basically the town square. It's become the major microphone for the entire world. It used to be that you would only be able to get your information from ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the major newspapers. In fact, if you look back the way it used to be for people who are my age and older, on any given Tuesday, you would wind up getting the information that happened on Monday. You would get that as a newspaper that you had delivered to your house, to your office, or you picked up as you were about to get on the bus or the train, and you'd read about yesterday's news. You only got the news that was put in that paper. And then later that night, maybe at the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock evening news, you would get your national and your local news put together in a way that was designed so you would get to know what they wanted you to know. But as the internet started to come around, things changed. All of a sudden, you were enabled to get your news from various different channels. And then social media came. And then it popped. Then people like Donald J. Trump had a chance to become president of the United States because they could reach the end user. They could reach the voter without having to go through the gatekeepers, the people at the Times, the people at the Chicago Tribune, the people at CNN or Fox News or anything like that. We didn't need them anymore. We could go direct. I am a prime example of that story. Briefly, I used to be a regular on Fox News. Was on every week on all the different programs from morning to night. I didn't get a whole lot of fanfare for that. I launched a Facebook page. All right, maybe what did I have, 250,000 people? Not even 200,000 people. Then I wound up going over to Newsmax. Same thing, small little increment building. But then I said, screw this. I'm going direct. I'm not going to have Fox News determine which clips they're going to put out and what clips they're not. I'm just going to go direct. I'm going to pick up my phone and I'm going to start talking to the people on Facebook directly. And that's how I wound up going into the millions. All the money, all the time that was sent in producing shows and putting on makeup and having car services back and forth into the city and everything scheduled. All of that became secondary to me literally picking up a phone in a baseball hat, walking around in the streets, sometimes windy, sometimes rainy, sometimes the horns of a car or the sirens of an ambulance would interrupt my feed. Nobody seemed to care because it was completely unfiltered. Nobody was stopping me from saying something. There was no commercial break. There was no producer saying I was going too long. And people like, hey, I'm finally getting the information that I want, that I need. And that was working great. And Facebook was the king. Facebook was the place where you can go. Facebook is why Trump won 2016. It's that simple. I always love telling these stats because I think it's simply incredible. In a 3-month run, 3 months, September, October, and a little bit of November, I wound up doing Facebook Live videos about pro-Trump propaganda, as you would want to call it. They want to call it Russian propaganda back in those days, right? It was all Russian propaganda. Like the Russians were feeding me stories about immigration and how it is my bills were too high and how my health insurance was crazy. Yeah, okay, my ass. Unfiltered news was getting right to the person on the other side. And my likes and my shares were going so crazy that in really what would be a 2-month, 1-week span, we wound up having over 1 million shares of my daily videos. 1 million shares for over 100 million plays. Think about those statistics. Think about that. My videos were shared so much that I wound up getting on the radar screens of the US government and these other little liberal think tanks who tried to make it sound as if I was a Russian bot. I don't even put Russian dressing on my salad. I don't know any Russians. I don't want to know any Russians. I was speaking from the heart. I was speaking from what I had learned crossing the country, talking to people. But they had to discredit me. They had to discredit you for sharing stuff that was misinformation. That's the direction to which Facebook took because they were pressured by the Democrats in Washington, D.C. They were pressured by the rhinos in Washington, D.C., who didn't want Donald Trump to be anywhere near the White House. And all of a sudden, the First Amendment, the ability to share information in a way that was never, ever put out before, suddenly was crippled. And what did they do, Facebook? They hid behind their user policies. They hid behind voodoo BS. They got fact checkers, and then they had these, you're violating our policies because you talked about immigration. What? You're hate speech. I'm hate speech because I said I hate it when people cross my border? That's hate speech? Here's a strike. Do it again, and we're going to deplatform you. Ooh, better not talk about immigration again. It got so bad on Facebook that they literally took the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and they kicked him off the platform. They censored the president of the United States. And then what happened? Twitter followed. They did the same thing. Then what happened? Places like Parler were removed from the Apple App Store and from the Google Play Store and from Amazon servers. Censorship, which is freaking China, was full embedded into the United States of America. COVID. A person like me gets on and says, I don't know if I should take the jab. This thing wasn't really investigated. It wasn't tested long enough. Boom. Censored. Kicked off. Doctors with medical degrees who have studied medicine for 20 years, who have some of the greatest reputations there are in medicine, have been posted in every single last journal you could imagine. We're saying, well, I think there's other ways to stop COVID other than, you're losing your degree, you're losing your license, you're losing this, you're losing that, you're losing you're not allowed to speak. What? YouTube. You can't have videos that say the 2020 election was stolen. You can't have 2020 election anything other than Biden won. If your video doesn't say Biden won, you're off. Facebook, Apple, Google, Twitter. It was rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The same social media companies who told us that you can speak freely and share whatever you want and express yourself, and you could build your businesses. You want to build a business around our platform? Absolutely. Boost your post, advertise your business, expose yourself to more people, spend money with us. People like you, people like me, we built those platforms. Without us, those platforms are nothing. And they got so big and they had so much money and their value on the street was so much on Wall Street. Billions, trillions, so much cash they didn't know what to do with it. So what do? They started buying up other little tiny social media companies. And before you know it, Facebook has Instagram and then there's WhatsApp and there's all these other different. And every single time it comes to where there's a new social media outlet, you're like, hey, I could speak freely on this one until you can't. It got so bad in this country that TikTok, that's owned by the Chinese government, wound up becoming the place of preference because you couldn't speak freely on any of these other platforms. That is not America. I can't tell you how many times. Can't tell you the amount of times because it's countless. In fact, I can open up my app on Facebook right now and tell you that I have no less than 10 fact checks against my account. And when you go and look at these fact checks, every single thing that I posted is true. Absolutely true. I remember one time, I remember it like it was yesterday. In the state of New York, years ago, they changed it so this way an illegal alien can go get a driver's license in the state of New York. Then they took it a step further. They made it to where on all of those Department of Motor Vehicle applications, you literally had to mark a box to opt out to be registered to vote. So they now put the two things together. Wait a second, we've got illegal aliens going to fill out an application to go to drive, and they have to opt out not to be in the voting block. They have to mark the little box that they're not a U.S. citizen. This is going to lead to voter fraud, I said. And I pointed to Los Angeles, where they had that same single thing happen through the state of California years earlier. And it was found out through an investigation that illegal aliens were actually voting. This was all facts. I posted that story, and I literally had my account taken down. I had to call a lawyer to get it reinstated because I was fact-checked. I was fact-checked by places that have lost all credibility, fact-checked by an organization that was nailed for plagiarism. ABC News, part of the fact-checking. ABC News, the network that set up a fake crime scene by taking crime scene tape and taping it to a tripod and to a light stand, thinking nobody was going to see it until somebody went by and took a picture and it went wild on social media. That ABC News and George Stephanopoulos, who lied about Donald J. Trump, who just paid a fine or a settlement to Donald J. Trump for millions of dollars. They were the fact checkers telling me that I'm lying and I'm wrong, and Facebook demonetizing my account and striking me down. So this way, out of the 1.5 million people that I should be able to reach that like my page, I'm reaching 500. Do you know how many times I've heard DML? I just thought you quit. I didn't know where you were. I didn't see you on my Facebook page anymore. Censored. Then a funny thing happened. Donald J. Trump won re-election, and he vowed that he was going to go after the Facebooks of the world. Facebook, who kicked him off for years for saying that he felt that the 2020 election was stolen from him. But now he's back in power, and Mark Zuckerberg is scared to no end that Facebook as a business is going to face regulation and they're going to go after him, and that they're going to go after him personally on many different levels. So what does he do? He goes and visits Trump and asks for a sit down with him. What's the next thing he does? He takes one of Trump's best friends, or at least one of his greatest champions, and Dana White, who leads the UFC, and invites Dana White to be on the board of now Meta, really known as Facebook. But Zuckerberg has taken it a step further. Zuckerberg now has announced in a 5-minute video, which I'm about to play for you, that he's going back to free speech. He admits that the fact checkers were biased. He admits that they took it too far. He admits that it was all politically driven. But what he hasn't done is he hasn't compensated people who had their reputations destroyed, who had their businesses wiped off the map, who spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers to protect their name and to try to get back into the social media sphere that Mark Zuckerberg and his freaking cronies kicked them off. He hasn't said sorry for all the damage that he's caused. So now I'm supposed to be able to speak freely. Well, let's see if it works. Mark Zuckerberg, you just don't get to be a prick on one day and then the next day say, oh, well, I'm not a prick anymore. And if Donald J. Trump still doesn't go after Facebook and doesn't go after Mark Zuckerberg, well, then Donald J. Trump isn't the guy I thought he would be. Because Facebook's going to play this game until Trump is done 4 years from now. And then he'll get the pressure, Mark will, from the Democrats to go back to the way he was. And what's to keep him from doing that? Maybe he'll be afraid that the Democrats will throw him in jail. And then it will go right back. Here is Mark Zuckerberg for 5 minutes. We never play 5-minute videos on this program. This one's well worth it. Because let me tell you something. If you can't tell, I hear this morning. I'm freaking pissed off. For years, I've had to deal with Facebook. For years, I gave them money. For years, I gave them information, inviting me into programs. Hey, would you have a one-on-one conversation with one of our market analysis people? And so many times, bending over backwards for these people. And what do? They stick it in your ass. They could care less about you. But now he wants to welcome you back. Listen to this guy for 5 minutes rant.
Hey, everyone. I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, We're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
Yeah, so I'm looking up here on what it is that Facebook recently nailed me for. And it's amazing. So it's still up there. And one of the things they got me for was that I had posted that a good majority of the states that Kamala Harris won do not have strict voter ID records in. And they came back and said that that was false information. How could that be false information? It's the truth. And so this is the sort of thing that do. We did another one I just got nailed for, which was I put that the drones up there, there was a person who had an opinion that it was the Chinese that were flying those drones, and that they were flying them over potential facilities that had nuclear energy in them. This was a person's opinion. And I said, sounds legit. And they hit fact check that that's not what the drones are. Nobody knows who those drones are. There has been no revelation to who is operating those drones. How can you fact check me and tell me that that's not true? So this is the sort of thing, but it's still up there. I mean, it's still up there. There's no doubt. Now, do those things get erased after a while? I have no idea. But, you listen to what he said, Dennis, for the longest time, this and that and whatever. And they've got drugs and children being trafficked and cartels are using Facebook. I mean, now all of a sudden, after years of cartels putting out advertisements on Facebook to get people to help in the trafficking of people, in scumbags chasing little children to try to lure them in for sex. Now, all of a sudden, he's realized that that's a problem, that he has to focus on that instead of focusing on conservatives. What's your take on this?
He kind of reminds me of like an iPhone. iPhones every few years get their updates and their upgrades. I don't know what this new Zuckerberg is, where he's got his little fancy perm and he's wearing the baggy black shirt, gold chain. He still always just sounds and appears very robotic without any emotion. Like even just that 5-minute announcement, you got to wonder, like, is there really a person in there? I have no doubt. I was talking to Ryan about this before the show. I have no doubt that maybe what he is saying comes with a legitimacy, not because he's had a change of heart, but kind of like how you painted it. There's clearly a change, a new era coming. And I don't think he wants to be left in the dust with some of these more radical Democrats. So if he is going to start lifting the veil and allowing free speech, I think we really need to see super clear evidence of that. And we actually need to see some of the cleanup of some of the pedophilia that runs on Facebook, because there's been investigative reports between Facebook and Instagram, which are all under Meta. It's quite rampant. So if he's really actually trying to make an effort here to, essentially compete with X, he's changing fact checked to community notes, which I think is valuable, because fact check is always supposed to be a cemented, certified opinion, like this is the way it is. And the examples you just brought up clearly show that that doesn't work. Whereas community notes is supposed to apply context as well as additional information, or just to debunk something that is actually false information. I think even when we had the hurricanes, someone tried sharing one of our videos, and a Canadian Facebook group had tried labeling it as a fact check, saying like this was inauthentic, and clearly, I mean, we lived it. So the whole fact checking system, I think, needs to go and just be completely canned, because no one's looking at it as anything valuable. It's just an unnecessary tag. I also feel that Dana White joining Meta is definitely a very big move, because I have always viewed Dana White as one of Trump's biggest allies. I mean, he had Dana introduce him at the RNC. He's prominently traveling with Trump's entourage or posse sometimes. So he clearly has a very big, great respect for Dana White. And I think now that he's going to be on the board and have some kind of influence in decision making, could be a little at least beneficial for Trump, since they've always had him and Zuckerberg a rocky relationship. After Facebook helped him in 2016, and then kind of went a 180 to help Biden in censoring Americans and Trump and kicking him off the platform.
I think Zuckerberg putting Dana White on the board is his sly little way of saying this is real. We're not just saying this for sake of trying to get myself out of trouble or trying to save our company. It is real. Dana White, the one thing I love about Dana White is that Dana White takes no bullshit from anybody.
No.
Man. He wouldn't even take bullshit for Trump. If Trump started giving him bullshit, he'd turn to.
I think that's why Trump respects him.
Of course, because Dana White is his own man. He's not going to be bought, and he's basically got an FU attitude, right? Hey, if I like you, I'm gonna love you. If I hate you, I'm just gonna blow you the hell off. I don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one thing about Dana White is that he goes to these board meetings when there are problems, whether it's a communication that's coming to Trump. Coming to Zuckerberg via Trump. I shouldn't say that. Whether it's Trump wanting to send a message to Zuckerberg and Facebook, he will do it now via Dana White. Dana White's going to deliver it. And if he sees something that he thinks smells, Dana White's going to say it. So I think that when all things add up, I think this is real.
Yeah.
I truly believe that Zuckerberg's going to run this. But I'm reading some of the comments here on X, and they're amazing because they've got a lot of really good questions. Somebody says, I wonder whether or not he really would have done this had Kamala Harris won.
Right.
That's a great question.
I don't think he would.
No.
Look, he, Jeff Bezos, and Sam Altman at OpenAI, they've all been donating $1 million to Trump for the inaugural fund, and that's clearly a bending of the knee. But I think with Zuckerberg, it's to a higher extent because of how influential his platform was in 2016, back when you were doing the walk and talks, and it was Trump's first campaign run. But then clearly how influential they were after that in terms of censoring people, taking down accounts. I mean, I think they were the first to start the crusade of kicking Trump off of platforms. I think they were the first one to give Trump that boot. So I think if Kamala won, we would be in a totally different alternate situation. But I think Trump winning, look, I even said it to Ryan before the show. I almost want to ask you to put yourself in Zuckerberg's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You become the youngest billionaire in the course of history.
Mm-hmm.
You essentially create, at the time, the biggest social media platform in the world. I mean, clearly outpacing MySpace back in the day. And even, with X, how it is now, it still doesn't have what Facebook was when it first got introduced. He had something in a way, beautiful there.
Yep.
And he allowed it to be compromised by the outside forces. And he kind of says it in that video of government that kind of gave him the, hey, you got to start, turning down the faucet here and putting the censorship label. Thing is, Zuckerberg, I don't think has this emotional intelligence to really stand up for himself, because he clearly didn't. He abided by them.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it was to save his own butt or maybe because he really does believe in their philosophies, it's a little hard to tell. He keeps doing things over the last 2 years that would make you say he doesn't seem like a crazy liberal, but his actions really spoke loud in that 4-year span when Joe Biden came into office and was president. So my hope is we do see a change happen in the next 30, 60 days where people maybe are posting on Facebook like, hey, I can share this and that. In the past, I would have been targeted or labeled. I don't have that anymore. And if we see that, maybe there's some authenticity. And I don't doubt that it might be tough. I mean, they got what, 1 billion people using the platform. So
It's still the most popular platform.
it is. It's still, Facebook. There are people who know Facebook better than they would know, a Twitter.
Well, keep in mind a few things. I mean, so the timing of this is it's so obvious. First of all, you do have Trump going into office, and the FBI and the DOJ, through direction of Trump, is going to be working feverishly to right the wrongs. So Mark Zuckerberg is getting ahead of that and trying to be an ally. And it's a smart play by Zuckerberg because he understands Trump, just like Elon Musk understands Trump. So Trump loves good press. Trump loves media. He loves to see his name in headlines. He hates seeing himself be attacked in the media. He's got an ally in Elon Musk, who has the most popular app there is right now.
yes.
So Mark Zuckerberg sees that. And now he's going to have an ally in Facebook. And let's not forget, Facebook owns Instagram. So think about what has just happened in a matter of months. Trump went from being attacked constantly in the media to now turning it around to where he has the number 1, 2, and 3 apps, notwithstanding TikTok, right? 1, 2, and 3 apps championing for him and his people. So now the messaging for Trump is outstanding, right? Facebook is going to comply with what it is that he wants, not only because Mark is afraid of what happens with the DOJ and the FBI cracking down on his ass, but he also, from a business perspective, sees that Elon Musk is gaining steam.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, Elon Musk has really screwed up in the last 2-3 weeks, where people are like, screw this place. It's not what it was. Censorship, free speech really isn't here. It's all BS. Mark Zuckerberg sees this and says, time's perfect. I can start bringing people back over. I'm going to take off the censorship. I'm going to put in the community notes, which basically is that any user can put up a note, and if it gains steam, it's sort of like a community note fact check.
Yeah.
But so it's this perfect, it's the trifecta. It's let me get out of jail
Mm-hmm.
with Trump. Let me be an ally to Trump and get more Trump people back. And let me take advantage of the mistake that X just made.
Totally. And again, the whole Dana White joining the board is an indication. I mean, one thing you always know about Trump, when he sends a certain person, you know when he's serious. So Dana White being on the board, you know he's going to be that leeway of communication. Another great example, he's sending Don Jr. to Greenland.
Yeah.
And I know there has been like the jokes of like, oh, Trump's like, talking about buying Greenland again. But it's kind of getting to a serious level. You have Denmark that owns it,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't afford it anymore.
Yep.
You got Greenland looking for their independence, but realize once we're independent, we don't get the Denmark money anymore, but the U.S. money is even worth more than that. Greenland itself, I think, is 56,000 people. To put that in perspective, Hilton Head Island, where we just went, 57,000 people.
Yeah.
It's a very small country.
Right.
But when you look into, and I ran it through some AI program, when you look at the economic benefits of taking over Greenland as a territory, their natural resources and the rare earth minerals, and I mean, they have zinc, they've got gold, it's completely untapped.
Mm-hmm.
So if Trump in these 4 years, if one of his biggest accomplishments, like I'm going to take this giant ice shelf, we're going to get some energy out of it and now become even more energy dominant. I mean, that's huge. And it also opens up strategic things for military, opening shipping lanes. I mean, it's an ice sheet with no people on it, but it's very strategic for developing our nation to be stronger. And the fact that he's sending Don Jr., whenever it's Don Jr. or Eric being sent as his representative, he's not messing around. So I think, to bring it back to the Facebook aspect, him having Dana White on that board is a huge plus. He's got one of his strongest allies in there. So I think
it's why it's real.
Yeah, it's why it's real.
If Dana White was not on that board, I would take this with a grain of salt. Now, with that being said, we have been positioning here to sue Facebook.
Yes.
And because they stripped all my monetization for no reason. No reason. We got a message that said, your pay, our technology has found that your page is connected to an entity that is breaking our policies. What the F is that? What is that? And we've tried forever. As it is, they owe me $8,000. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. I'm spending more than $8,000 on a lawyer to try to get $8,000. So, but the point of it is that I had become so frustrated after, what was it, 10, 12 years, that this is what they would do to me. I just said, I have to go after them. I have to go after them. My preference was to have it corrected. And so we just were about to send to them this week.
Yeah.
In fact, I just reached out to Mike, my lawyer, last night and said, hey, I'm writing you an email about the letter that he had constructed to Facebook. He wanted me to confirm it. And then I had another thing I had going on with him. And then all of a sudden, you guys sent this thing to me this morning about the censorship. And I went back to Mike and said, whoa, hold off on that letter. We were actually sending him a letter this week that said, it's a letter that notices preserve all documents.
For discovery. Yeah.
Every single last document that has my name on it or the word censorship or anything like that, we want those documents saved.
Yeah.
Because we're going to call for it in discovery. And I was going all in. I mean, I sat down with your mother and I said, this is going to tap into our retirement, but I'm going all in. And likely I'll lose, but I'm going all in. And so now it becomes a different story. Now it goes more amicably. Now we go back to them and say, in light of your current change, we don't want to go to war with you. We want things rectified.
Yes.
Okay? Still preserve those documents, but because we may want to have our own little section of the Twitter files. Okay? So preserve all those documents, but at the same time, is if we could just get back to normal and you can unleash our account back to the way it was, fairly so, because we didn't do anything bad.
No.
We didn't attack anybody. We didn't threaten fire in a theater. We didn't call for violence. Nothing. We did nothing wrong. We just were we were either the victim of an AI program gone woke, or we were victim of a woke employee who just said, I'm going to go after Dennis. I found him. I don't like what he said. And here we go. Now, with that in mind, if you look what Zuckerberg said in his 5 minutes, is that, and he admits things along the way. And I know that Zuckerberg never does anything unless he's talking to that army of Facebook lawyers. So the Facebook lawyers looked at what he said and look what he did, and they said, it's okay, you can do it. He literally is admitting that they have been biased, they have been censoring, and that they have been, out of control, making mistakes.
It's a come clean moment. Yeah.
Yes, but the lawyers said you can do it. And I imagine one of the reasons why he can do that is because it is almost impossible to sue Facebook because their user agreement is so egregious and so wide-ranging that they basically could do anything they want to you. They can make the mistake of selling your stuff the wrong place, whatever it may be, and they're not going to be held, they're not going to be held harmless. You're agreeing to that user agreement. So somebody would have to, and that was one of the things we were facing, Michael and I were facing, my lawyer Michael, was how are we going to circumvent that user agreement? Do we say you have made it so difficult to understand that I did not understand the complexities of which you were putting forward? Do we say that you made it in such a way to where you're almost asking me not to read it and just to click OK? So, how do we humanize this unbelievably legal, baffling document? How do we do that? And so that was part of what we were up against. But he basically said they want to start reducing mistakes, which is his admission that they have had mistakes. He said that they've been censoring and that there has been censoring going on, unfair censoring. He says that there was censoring against political content. And now, by limiting the reach and ratcheting it down. Well, that to me is fraud because, and I love this video, okay? That to me is fraud because if you are admitting, and I don't know how the lawyers missed this, if you were admitting that you took content from me and lowered its reach and did not recommend it, didn't tell me that you were doing that to me, and yet you still enticed me to boost posts and to advertise on your channel without telling me to let you know, hey, Dennis, you can boost this post, but understand that when you give us your money to boost that post, we're still going to restrict what it is because it's political. Yeah. So there's so many different things in this thing. Fact checkers, right? He said that the fact checkers were biased. He admits that they were biased. I've lost money I've lost credibility. I've had to spend legal fees because I had a biased agency, whether it was PolitiFact, whether it was Scopes, whatever the frickin' Snopes, whether it was USA Today. USA Today one time hit me. Remember that article I told you about there with the Breitbart thing about the illegal alien stuff. We went back to them. I wound up getting a 14-page letter from USA Today threatening that they were going to sue me and basically destroy my life if I even fought it back. So he's admitting all this stuff. So, and then on top of that, look what he said, right? My ballywick, immigration. We were too hard on people about immigration and gender. I mean, who is this guy? I mean, he just admitted all of his sins. Now, I'm hoping that this was a result of a meeting with Trump. I'm hoping that when he sat down with Trump, Trump said, hey, Mark, we could be in good graces. Here's what you got to do. Stop censoring conservatives. Stop putting out fact checkers on people like a freaking mad dog. Stop biting people for no reason. Stop doing it. Stop making it out to be like MAGA is some poisonous people. Here's the other thing. I mean, I'm talking about from the standpoint of being pissed because I lost money, time, and energy, and I feel like somebody silenced me. How about the people who are on the other side of me speaking right now that are listening to this? Or anybody, not even our own program, who lost a loved one during COVID because they were fed lies and bullshit on Facebook, driven by the almighty liberal bastards that are in DC that he bought into and tried to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get them into power. How many people lost their loved ones because fake news bullshit was allowed to be put on Facebook? I mean, my God, who does this fucking guy think he is? I mean, I'm losing my shit now thinking about it, about how many people died alone in a nursing home or died alone in a hospital because their family wasn't able to go get them because Facebook and YouTube were part of the whole, and Twitter were part of the promotion of the fake jab and the fake wear your mask and the fake 6 feet stay away from people. I mean, come on. And now all of a sudden this guy gets a pass.
I agree. I look, what he had done for those years, like how you even just mentioned with COVID, it's irreversible and just awful what some people had to go through without being able to share their stories. I mean, even just talking about it, looking through some of the comments, people saying their own accounts being flagged or zero reach. I mean, talk about two very big social media signs we've gotten in the last few weeks here. You know, one being the Facebook with about to send the lawsuit. Now we're going to hold off just to see what plays out. And then even X, how we were maybe going to go all in. And, you know, Elon Musk even showing his hand on the censorship scale. There's still accounts since Christmas that have been demonetized and have lost their subscribers. And, you know, they paid money into the platform. And yet they're going with the concept of you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. Well, they go hand in hand. I mean, if you're going to be demonetizing people who are putting money in the platform and want to speak up, especially when your whole thing is you can speak however you want. If you want to grow your audience, great, like, you know, speak it. It's counterintuitive to what his original message was. So whatever Zuckerberg's next coming steps are, it's not going to make up for any of the years of the damage he's done. I mean, how can you when you've lost a loved one, when you want to talk about how the jab was the cause of it, and then they're, you know, shutting you off.
Yeah.
The only way that he can even get a semblance of atonement is that if he is making this shift, you know, he even said in his video, "Oh, this is what the people want now." No, this is what we just want.
We've always wanted it.
Yes, keep this policy, and this should be the policy until Facebook's end days. Okay, and then whoever your successor is over at Facebook, if it shouldn't be Sheryl Sandberg, okay, it's got to be someone who actually will allow the platform to just be as is. Speak your mind, say what you think is true, say what is actually true, not with the reprimand of a ABC fact checker reporter coming in.
There's another part of this, Dennis, that I've always talked about. Facebook, as CEO, he has what's called a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders of Facebook, which means that as CEO, his responsibility is to maximize the ultimate value of that platform. He did not do that. He did not do that by censoring and by limiting voices. he turned away ad revenue. You know how many times I tried to give Facebook money and they wouldn't even answer me back? Do you know how many times that I would have done advertisements into the $250,000, $500,000 a year to try to really build us up to where we had 10 million people following our page instead of 1.5 million? Since 2016, this is one of the things my lawyer put out to Mark Zuckerberg. Since 2016, my like count, my follow count on Facebook has not gone up by 1. I have stayed at 1.3 point something million since 2016. It's 5 steps forward, 5 steps back. If I wind up getting 10 new likes, they take away the 10 likes with 10 other people. It has been, how do you do that? How do you have a guy of my nature who has done Facebook Lives? I've posted 20, 30 times a day, all that. How do you make it so this way I don't grow at all? That's fraud right there. That's censorship. That's fraud. It's misleading. You're asking me to advertise. You'll take my money, and yet you're going to crush me down. That's how it's worked with him. And it's so freaking wrong. So he had a fiduciary responsibility, and he broke that, and nobody's gone after him for it. This guy, as far as I'm concerned, is trying to get himself that free get out of jail card. I wrote this on Facebook 2 hours ago, and I want to give you some of the comments that people have said. I wrote, Facebook is announcing the end of its liberally driven fact-checking fiasco that unfairly marked accounts like mine for posting truths. It's a nice change, but for years, accounts like mine were being tagged with radically driven false information strikes because we are conservative. The amount of times my account was falsely hit by the likes of far-left fact-checkers who have zero credibility is countless. My reputation scarred, my pocket picked, and my time wasted. If it's truly going to be a free speech platform again, why not start by unchaining the reach of accounts like mine that helped build this platform? Otherwise, it's still a haven for anti-conservatism. And so I think that's an important part we all have to realize. And Musk just said this himself the other day, because he's going down a wrong channel as far as I'm concerned too. We're not going to take away your freedom of speech. We're just going to take away your freedom of reach.
And that originally comes from Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the head of the ADL and worked very closely with Barack Obama.
There you go. So
that's where that expression originally comes from.
So we could tell people about how the COVID jab is dangerous. We could tell them about how the 2020 election may have been stolen. We can talk about whatever it is, UFOs, and what it is that maybe these drones are carrying, but nobody's going to hear you. So, don't put a Band-Aid on cancer, because the real cancer isn't the freedom of speech, it's the freedom of reach.
Yes.
You could let me scream all I want, but if you put me in a box, I mean, we just did a tour, you and I and Ryan and Ashley, we did a tour of the local prison here. And there was one room that we went in where people are set to solitary confinement. And the woman, I remember there being a woman's voice, because she heard us, doing the tour, screaming, "Help me, help me, I'm being unfairly held, help me, help me." Nobody told her to shut up. You have the freedom of saying whatever you want, but nobody's going to hear you. You're in a box. That's the equivalent. So Mark Zuckerberg, let's not fall for his BS. Let's remember that it's one thing to tell us that we can scream whatever we want, but if you're going to put us in a solitary confinement, what's the point? It's not only the fact checker garbage. Take off the shackles. Let us reach the people who we paid for and worked for to reach.
Not to mention, I'm not that I want to give him the idea here, although I'm sure he does. Like, you're supposed to want to make money off these platforms. If you got someone,
Well, that's what I said, fiduciary responsibility.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So overall, right, you have your reach limited. Imagine if it wasn't. He would be getting money in his pocket. He should want it in a way. It's like, it's ridiculous.
I am telling you right now, if God take me if I am lying. If Mark Zuckerberg came to me, a very, very, very small media company that consists of my 2 sons, myself, and my daughter, sort of part-time, and he said to me, "We're going to take the shackles off. You can reach 50% of your 1.5 million people for free." You know what I would say to him? How much money to reach the other half? And if he said, "You have to commit to spend $1 million over the year, I would say, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice on that because I think my program is so good that I'll spend the $1 million because I know it will kick me back $2 million. I would sign the dotted line if I knew I could reach all of my people. But he ain't ever going to do that. He ain't ever going to do that. And look at that. That's the fiduciary's responsibility right there. There's no harm in letting me. What is the point of liking a page if you are not going to have exposure to that page?
I feel like we could put a compilation of screenshots of all the people over the years who have said, DML, I follow you all the time, but I never see you on Facebook anymore. DML, I'm a follower, but I never see you on Facebook anymore. DML, it's great to see you're back. Did you leave Facebook? Like all the time. Remember, we would always read those comments.
It's still to this day.
Still to this day.
Still to
I
this
could
day.
probably, if he gave me the 10 minutes, I could probably find
I just read what I posted. I got 150 comments. I guarantee you in that 150 comments, somebody's going to say, my God, this is the first post I've seen from you in years.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. How sad is that? Why have them like and follow a page if you're not going to? Who the fuck are you to say, well, yeah, come on my platform. I'm going to monetize you. I'm going to put your information out, and privacy is not going to be there because we've been hacked 50,000 times and we give it out. We're going to wind up monitoring you and doing all the different stuff to you. But at the end of the day, we're not really going to give you what you want. That's fraud. That is fraud. If you mislead people into thinking they're getting something and then you take it away from them for other reasons, and those reasons are yourself, that is fraud.
So on Rumble here from R. Graxic, I never see your posts, DML.
Never, ever see my posts, and I post all the time. So this one woman, Gina, writes, I don't have any faith in his ability to create anything more than a free speech fiasco. So sadly enough, I am not expecting positive change. If it happens, I would love to be the first one to say I was wrong. Another person, Susan, says, I will believe this when I see this. As of right now, all patriots still go against community rules and are punished in one way or another. She's damn right, man. Rebecca, reinstate the conservative pages that were taken down by Zuckerberg. Both of my Trump media pages were shut down after 8 years of work. So there you go. Think of that. This woman, and who knows, maybe she's as far right as they come. But as long as she's not saying Ku Klux Klan and, hang them and do all this and stuff, if she's just, hey, I am everything that you would imagine a conservative would be, and then some, maybe she wears freaking MAGA socks and MAGA pajamas.
But talk about the hypocrisy. I'm using X as the example since I'm always on it. You just talked about, right? Like Ku Klux Klan. First of all, I never see that regardless. But you know what I do see? And it's like, it's so selective. I see white people getting beat up all the damn time, especially with the H-1B visa thing. There are some of Elon Musk's own programmers who literally are commenting to people like, your race won't exist in a few hundred years. Like saying things that wow, okay, you could just, go bash the white race all you want. But they never you think they got a fact check or a tag? No.
Wait a second. How about all the African Americans who are out there who will use the N-word, whether it be in a song or just a communication back and forth to each other? No problems there. If I were to write that or say that in a video, they would absolutely flag me. I'd be kicked off for hate speech. Wait a second. How can you have two sets of rules? And that's what they do. And this is why people say, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes.
And the only person in this whole thing that we talked about today that lends any credibility to what we've talked about today is that guy right there, Dana White.
Well, you know what? And
it's all on his shoulders.
It is. So you know what? I guess like my question to you would be like, maybe let's just say they have 30 days here to really like hone in to show evidence. What do you think would be the first 3 things they really need to super tackle to prove they're actually following this path?
I'll give you the answer differently. In order for me to break the lock off my wallet and start spending on Facebook again, and for me to tell my lawyer, go away, 3 things. I'll give you the 3 things. Number 1, come in and make a statement that says we're removing every blemish that was ever put on your account, almost like, giving a pardon. Any blemish that was ever on your account, we are taking it off and we are resetting all of the different notes we have on you. So our AI system doesn't look at you and go back and say, oh, this person's posted 15 bad things over the course of time. Give everybody a clean slate. To this woman's point, reinstate every page that you took down. Yes. And then third, prove through numbers that the reach that you are getting is back to, and maybe it can't be 100% because then your timeline would be filled. But let's remember something. Even if it was filled, you have the right as a user to say, I no longer want to follow this people anymore. There's a guy, I don't remember his name. It's not even worth saying. African-American guy, I think from South Africa or something, that was a White House correspondent. He's on X all the time.
Simon Atiba.
Yeah. I'm so sick of reading his shit. I blocked him. I said, you know what? I followed him. I blocked him. Then there's the other guy on X, Ian from Malaysia.
The scammer from Malaysia.
Yeah, I got rid of him.
Yeah.
So I have the ability to unfollow people. So if all of a sudden, if Mark Zuckerberg was to say, everybody you say you want to follow, we're going to put in your timeline. If people don't want to see me anymore, get rid of me. I get it. But here's the thing. I log onto Facebook today. You know what I see? I see Robert De Niro posts. I see Alec Baldwin stuff. I see things that I don't want to see. I mean, why am I seeing that? Why aren't I seeing things that I've liked and who I've followed? So if those three things there, my God, I would feel like the world was good again. I feel like the world was good again. And honestly, I would leave X because of the two platforms from a pure technology standpoint, X does not offer the same tools that Facebook does.
I gotta be honest. I think the H-1B visa debate kind of showed the hand a little bit in the sense of the efficiency of who's working at X. Because before that whole debate, there was always these technical glitches, and we always chalked it up like, okay, they're just reworking algorithms and interfaces, and they're just, it's a constant work in motion. And truthfully, I mean, that's the case for a lot of these social media platforms. I think they're the kind of industry that evolves almost on a day-to-day basis. But then when you kind of look at his staff and who's running the whole place, you kind of realize maybe why they are a little more technologically inept compared to Facebook, who has, been around since 2010 and at least has a way more technological capable staff. The question becomes now, can they just be ideologically unbiased?
Well, it's funny, because here's something I did, and then we got to end the show. We've been on for an hour. But I just opened up my Facebook app to see what it is they put in my feed. The first thing I wound up getting was a picture of Bill Gates at Dick Burgers in Seattle. All right?
Like, who cares?
I mean, that's the first thing. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Why do you think I want to see that? Then it goes on to say that Meta brings Dana White on the board of directors. Then it turned out to be The Sun revealed women will be having more sex with robots than men by 2025. I mean, I didn't ask for this. No. I didn't ask for any of this stuff. Why am I getting this? This is ridiculous. This is what just nonsense that I'm looking at through here. I got to think. Breaking: Mel Gibson turns down $100 million from Netflix. It's total fake news. They put that to every single person. I got Mel Gibson and I got Robert De Niro on here. Why am I getting this? I have never shown any interest. Why aren't I getting things that I want to see?
I'm telling you, when Facebook and then Instagram, because I was young enough to have it when it was first coming out. There was a total purity to it because it wasn't based off these corrupted algorithms. In fact, Instagram, maybe Ryan even remembers, but Instagram used to be chronological, meaning if you posted and then mom posted and then Ryan posted and I follow you guys, I see your post, then mom's post, then Ryan's post. But now with the introduction of, companies doing their advertising, sponsorships, content that I never even agreed on, but because I watched a 10-second video that was shared to me, now it's filling my screen. I don't see your post. I don't see mom's post. I don't see Ryan's post. It gets clouded. It gets drowned. The days of chronological posting compared to the algorithmic, we're going to dictate what you can see, is ridiculous. If I follow someone, I want to see their stuff on my timeline. I don't want to have to go, actively searching for it because you're deciding it's not worth my time to read, even though I said it is.
Same thing. Ellen DeGeneres moves back to the UK, and Morgan. Why am I seeing this?
Why are we getting all the creepy celebrities?
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about.
Judy, I see little of you on Facebook.
Yeah, see little of you on Facebook, right? And this is so there. That's when I believe it. That's when I believe that really the change has been made. And
SimSick, I never see you either, DML.
Yeah, there you go. It's sad. It is completely sad. I used to do. You want to do a test? Let's do a test right now. We'll run a little long. Let's do a test right now. Okay. I used to do Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
And I used to get 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 people, right? So let's do a Facebook Live right now and prove my point. Let's see how many we get. So we're going to go to, I don't even know how to do it anymore. That's how long it's been.
It's why I said Mark Zuckerberg's like an iPhone. I think so many times they do these updates to the apps, the phones. Like I just got a new phone after 8 years of having the same old one because it was reliable. And I'm 2 months in and I'm still trying to like figure out certain things to the phone. I think it's a total point of if it's not, broken, what's the fix? So
Yeah.
hopefully you're able to find it.
So let's take this, right? So I just put back, I just put in a thing that says, Facebook says free speech is back. Do you believe it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So share to story on, I don't know what this, what else is. Share to groups. So I'll share it to my groups. All right. So I got the DML group, which has 47,000 people in it, and the DML supporters who used to have thousands, but then if they cut off my monetization, it's 600. Okay. So that's going there to save. So this should be going out to right now 1.4 million people.
In theory, yes.
In theory, that's what this should be going out to. Okay. So we have that. Let's go live. And we will. I will show to the screen how much it is once we get there.
Say it's been a while since you've done Facebook.
Oh yeah,
Live.
I used to do all the time. Hey, DML coming to you here. Make sure you hit the share button. Make sure if you don't share, you don't care. That's what I used to say all the time, right? Hey, we're doing a Facebook check right here to see whether or not free speech really is back. Let's see if free speech is back. Hit the share button because Mark Zuckerberg says that now we could do free speech. It's all back. He admitted to the fact that the drug cartels and children were being trafficked and drugs were being sold on Facebook. Didn't do anything about that, but censoring people like you and me, that was the number one thing. He admitted also that the fact checkers were absolutely biased and that the technology was really doing nothing about it. So we wanted to see whether or not it was true or not, because I used to do Facebook Live videos and get 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people on. And now these days I get 100 if I'm lucky. So let's see. We've been on for what, 2 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll give you a guess. How many people do you think I have on Facebook right now?
200?
200 people? How about 62?
Oh my God.
62 people.
Out of a 1.4.
Now, what I used to do, if people remember, is I used to go on and I used to say, all right, you know what? We're going to wait for it. If we will wait for it to get to 1,000 before I would start talking about the topic. I would be waiting here for a year. I'm now hitting 80. So do you believe, let's see here. Anybody believe? Put your info. Terry Ann says I'm at 300. So maybe it's gone faster for her. Anybody believe that he's going to wind up doing what he said he's going to do? Do you believe in Facebook that they're going to really give people free speech? Do you believe this, or do you think he's just doing it to try to get himself out of a jail card? I'm reading your comments. Anybody? Come on.
I see 112.
I see 117, 121.
Out of 1.4 million.
Yeah, out of 1.4 million people, we have 131. That is, so you ask me, do I believe Mark Zuckerberg's really going to do this? The answer is no. He's going to keep his same thing. This is all about him not getting in trouble with Donald J. Trump and trying to take some of the momentum that X had and steal it because Elon Musk.
Someone just wrote, Marlena, I cannot believe you're live on Facebook right now. I have missed you so much.
And I've missed you too. But it's not like I went away. It's not like I said, oh, I don't want to do anything anymore. I've been here every single day. But Facebook will not allow conservatives to have any sort of voice at all whatsoever, ever. And so I don't believe them. I don't believe them because it's technology. All they had to do is just you take out some code. Yeah. You take out some code. Look, if I want to change my website from the color red to the color blue, I don't say it's going to take weeks for us to do. I just go in and I change the code, and the code is based on color code. All right, I give the code for blue instead of red, and that's it. So he's full of it. He's full of shit. They went on Fox News this morning to say this is all happening. 5 minutes we're into this now. I have 140 people, so it's all full of shit. That's really what it is. Hey, you know what? Seeing that I got you here, we were just doing a test. Go to DennisMichaelLynch.com and sign up for our newsletter, and you'll wind up being able to know when we are and when we are not around, and maybe you could start catching our program again. But we appreciate you being with me today on Facebook. Nice to see you. Go to DennisMichaelLynch.com, sign up for the newsletter. We'll be talking about this fake news from Mark Zuckerberg that all of a sudden censorship is back. Because you know what? I want to tell Dana White, hey, Dana, Here you go. Here's my screenshot. Here, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a screenshot right now. Take the screenshot. I have 151 people. How does an account with 1.5 million people hit 150? My ass. Yeah, Kathy Holmes says no notification. She's probably listening to our real show and then
Right.
came over here. How many people of that people
There
did
are some
that?
comments that are saying,
Yeah,
on
that
our-
they came over here because of basically we announced it on our live show that we were live on Rumble, live on X, live on Team DML. Yeah, look, Pamela says 153 people. My ass. You know what? I'm still suing this MF. All right, we'll talk to you later. All right, let's end the program, Dennis. So that's it. You know, it's bullshit. It's always bullshit. They're all full of shit. That's it. We got to go. We got another podcast to do. Life After 50. Somebody's coming in the next 15 minutes.
Well, the good news is you can always find us here through DennisMichaelLynch.com
Dennis Michael
and
Lynch,
joining Team DML.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about it. The newsletter thing is going to be our big initiative. You could get the newsletter for DennisMichaelLynch.com. We're doing all the technology right now. It's taking a little longer than we like, but that's always the case. Hopefully, by the inauguration, that was our plan. That we would wind up having full-time our new newsletter through our new the new platform we're doing it through, and that's that. So go to DennisMichaelLynch.com, put your name down there. In fact, if you really want to make sure you have the full experience, give us the information like your full name, where you live, and your cell phone number. I'm the only person who gets that, but our next iteration is that we're going to be doing text messaging. So we won't sell your information and give it away to anybody. In fact, my sons don't even have access. I'm the only one who has access to it. So that's what we'll do. And that's that. The other thing, too, obviously, if you want to become a member of Team DML, if you're not already, you make sure that you see every show. That's how it works. Nobody can stop you from seeing the show when you're on Team DML. As far as my usual ending, may God bless you, your family, the freedom of speech, and Dana White.
Today's Team DML blessing goes out to Lavita Bartlett.
On with it, Navita. Talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.